The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization.
Happy Thursday evening all, and welcome to Barking Out Loud, coming to you live from Taquad Studios in Tampa. We will be talking about some important information that a lot of our viewers have actually asked me about, and several actually ask about the same thing, and it's a common question I get from our adopters through Florida Retriever Rescue, and just general public, people I work with, all sorts of stuff. So a lot of really great information here if you are looking for flea, tick, or heartworm prevention, or trying to figure out what shots you really need to, have to, should give your dog, and all sorts of other vaccinations or diseases out there or things you need to watch for. And some of that depends on where you live in the country, and some of that is just kind of all over, and some are rearing their ugly heads these days. So we always have to be really careful with our dogs. Obviously, they're family members, but I personally do not like to over-vaccinate, over-chemicalize my boys and, well, my little girl. So I'm going to give you some information tonight. By all means, always ask your veterinarian, ask other dog family owners that you know, but these are my opinions, so by all means, everybody is free to their own. So tonight, let's go over some basic stuff. So if you have gotten a puppy or looking to get a puppy, there's some basics that you really need to start with. So let's kind of start from birth. So puppies are born with worms. So some people kind of freak out. Some of our adopters, oh, my puppy has worms and it's, 10 weeks old or so. Well, all puppies have worms. It's just a matter of how many wormers that we need to give them based on the load that they have. Sometimes it depends on what mom had passed to them, what they've gotten from their environment, and so forth. So they're very easy to pick up. It's not something you've done wrong. It is a fact of life. People sometimes just don't know it. I've heard people say that most of us humans probably have them as well. So what you need to do is, first things off, is at 2 weeks of age, you should be using a safety wormer for babies, which is Pyrantel. It comes in all sorts of different names, but Pyrantel is the actual wormer. It's the actual medication, and it's in a liquid form. And usually you can get it in I think it's a banana tasting. Obviously, I haven't tasted it, but what it smells like. And it's a thick yellow liquid. It goes, you only use like little 1 to 5 milliliter tubes, little medicine droppers, and you can get those at any feed store or pharmacy. And you'll do it at 2 weeks, again at 3 weeks, 5 weeks, and probably 7 weeks. You should be pretty good at that point if you've got anywhere between 3 to 5 dewormers in your puppy. And they should be good pretty much for the year unless you're exposed to it, like you go to dog parks or other dogs in the home, or like us, you're fostering and you're bringing dogs in the home. But in general, your puppy, you have to start with a wormer. It's a fact of life for puppies, so don't let it scare you. If you see one, worms all look different. I didn't really plan on getting descriptive about it, but I suppose that could be helpful to people. The worms that look like little pieces of rice, or they're like little flat pieces of rice, and they can be connected so they look longer, but they're like little flat pieces of rice. Those are tapeworms. Those are because of fleas. So mom had fleas, puppy had fleas, the dog ate it. Basically, that's all you can do. You see a dog like chewing on them, that's basically they could ingest, and most likely will ingest a flea at that point. And the flea eggs, they cause the tapeworms. Not a huge deal. If it becomes a major load, it can become a huge deal, but you'll need medication for that. Now, baby wormer does not cover that. Pyrantel does not cover that. You need, it's called, if I pronounce some of these right, Praziquantel. And you'll see some in the stores. You don't have to necessarily go to your vet, and nothing against our vets. We love our vets, but I use them as necessary on things because I've educated myself over the years as to what I can do myself and what I have to go to a vet for. You can get dewormer in stores like PetSmart, Petco, and also at feed stores. So most times the people there will be someone who is educated enough to be able to answer those questions. Oh, I have tapeworms. What can I use? My puppy is this age. Always read the back of the box. A lot of them you can only use at certain ages and certain weights. Alongside your dewormer, the first and very, very, very important thing you're going to do is your first puppy shot. Now, there is some back and forth on when these should be done, but in general, your first puppy shots should happen between 5 and 8 weeks old. So we, as a rescue, try and do ours at 6 weeks, and that's obviously if we have that option. So if we have a litter, like we have 2 right now, that are in kind of a 2-week or 3-week stage, when they get to 6 weeks, we're going to do the first puppy shot. Now, we use 5-in-1s and 7-in-1s. For the first puppy shot, we're going to do a 5-in-1. Basically, that means it does not have a leptospirosis to it, and I'll go over that, but that is for your first puppy shot. We will do the second puppy shots 2 to 4 weeks later. If you're trying to stay on a really good schedule, you'll do it at 6 weeks, 9 weeks, and 12 weeks. Basically 3 weeks apart. You can't go more than 4 weeks apart. If you pass that 4-week stage, you really need to catch up and do an additional shot on top of that, or they're not going to be protected. Basically, mom's milk has antibodies. It protects the puppies just as a mom's milk would a baby. But once they stop feeding, and puppies are usually weaning at about 4 weeks old, sometimes 5, depends on the mom. Usually puppies have teeth at that point, so they don't want to. So at that point, they're stopped getting mom's milk. Their antibodies are all of a sudden going to be, okay, look at all this stuff in the environment. I need protection against this. There's some bacteria. There's all sorts of things in the environment, viruses, that you need to protect them against. So that's why that first shot is really important. You do that at 6 weeks, and that will basically kind of set the stage for the additional shots. By no means does that one shot protect them. It really transitions them from mom's milk and her protection to the next shot that's coming that's going to protect them against the diseases in the environment. So first shot at 6 weeks, second shot at 9 weeks, third shot, which is going to seal the deal basically, at 12 weeks. And those are your puppy shots. Your rabies would then be the next thing to come. And the rabies shot depends on your county. Where I come from up north in Boston, we don't pay attention to the counties all that much. In Florida, everything is done by your county. So Hillsborough County has certain rules compared to Pasco, compared to Pinellas, which are the ones that we generally cover. They go anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks, and that's a great age for you to have the rabies done. So if it's 12 weeks, have it done then. If you have to wait till 16 weeks, do it then. I don't know if Pinellas is 14, one of them's 14. But again, have the rabies done then. Basically, your puppy is now 3 to 4 months old. It's had 3 sets of shots and a rabies shot, and it is prepared now for another year. So that next year, so when they're turning 1, then you're going to do a booster. So that is going to be an annual shot. And at that point, for the second, third, and annual shots, I do recommend a 7-in-1 shot. It covers everything. It has the leptospirosis in it. It has the parvovirus in it. It has the coronavirus in it. It has the parainfluenza virus in it. All of that is covered in it. So you do the 1 shot of shots at 1 year old, along with a 1-year rabies. So you're now at that 1-year stage. You don't have to do the next one. Well, you had the first rabies, I'm sorry. If your dog has done the puppy rabies, and then at your first year, your vet will actually do a 3-year at that point. If you don't have a rabies background, like if you adopted your dog at that age, then they're not going to do a 3-year. They're going to do a 1 for the first one, which is what if you had a puppy you got done at 3 to 4 months. They'll do a 3-year for your first year 1 or your second rabies. So then you're on a 3-year schedule. And I know some vets require it, some boarding facilities require it. If you're going to Disney for the day or whatever it may be and you need to put your dogs in the kennel, they are going to want you to have your 3-year rabies is okay, but some of them are still, a lot of the facilities are still catching up on the idea of doing a 3-year vaccination. Right now, that is our recommendation, but again, if you board your dogs and that is not acceptable to the facility, then you might have to do them yearly. Talk to your vet about it. Maybe your vet will give you a note that says your dog got the 3-year vaccines and they don't need anything beyond that. Again, it varies by vet. So your vaccine schedules then would be on a 3-year. So if you did your 3 puppy shots, your rabies, everything there at 3 to 4 months, you did at 1 year, you did a 3-year shot, 3-year rabies. So now you're out to 4 years, 3-year shot, 3-year rabies. Now you're out to 7 years. Now you're out to 10 years. Honestly, after about 9, 10, I'm not going to do any of the above on my dog. He's had plenty of it. My Scooby is at that age right now. He'll be 10, so he'll be done with his shots now. It's just added chemicals. It's not necessary. Again, that is my opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you have to do, and your vet may have a different opinion from that. So please follow your vet's schedule and read up on it. Educate yourself. Don't just look at one article. Read a ton of them. Make sure that it's like reading a review. It's like one person or one parent might feel there was something about one, and then you've got 5 others or 6 others, 7 others. You want to make sure that it's pretty much a consensus. There's studies that are done every year. Again, read up on them and make your own decisions on that or use your veterinarian's advice. But that is how we follow, and that's how we follow and rescue. The core vaccines that are covered is distemper. Distemper is a huge deal. Usually affects puppies 6 to 12 weeks, but it can go further than that depending if they've been exposed. Distemper is the leading case of infectious disease deaths in dogs, mainly puppies again. It is incredibly deadly. If your puppy does catch it, there is very little chance to, really none, that they're going to survive it. So distemper is an incredibly scary thing. It's the scariest thing out there for the dogs as far as puppy viruses. So, not doing a $7 shot if you got it at the feed store. If you did it at the vet, it's anywhere from $10 to $20. In rescue, we get ours in bulk, but there's really no excuse. I mean, you can't take a $10, $20 shot. If you say, oh, well, I don't want to pay an exam fee and all of that, you go to the vet and it's automatically $50 or $60 or $100 because they're going to tell you I need this and I need that. Well, if that's how you feel about it and you aren't necessarily being safe for your puppy, then use the traveling vets. You see signs all the time when you go by a Walgreens or a pet supermarket or even Petco's and so forth. They'll have signs or ask the lady at the register or the person at the register and say, hey, do you have one of those visiting vets or traveling vets come by here? If so, do you have a schedule? Basically, they don't charge you exam fees. You go in, you get whatever shots you need done or heartworm medications, flea medications, and all of that stuff that you need a script for. So if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But by all means, you have to have shots in those dogs. I cannot stress it enough. We see a lot of death in rescue. It's really, really sad. Puppies, we had a puppy recently that someone brought to a park. It had no shots or anything, 6, 7 weeks old. That is exposing it to just so many things. It could have been really dangerous for them. So I don't say go out of your way and say, hey, I always say, hey, does your puppy have shots? Because, I do rescue, so I got to be careful about not touching it. It kind of gives that person the idea that, hey, maybe I should have shots. And I try and educate at that point without being too pushy on people. People get upset. People have their own beliefs. But again, try and do what you can to make sure that your puppy, your friend's puppy, your family's puppy, whatever it is, has their shots. Hepatitis is out there. We've had puppies with that before. Parvovirus, that's of course, I did a whole show on parvovirus because it is so scary and it is so rampant. Second to distemper, probably in deaths. It is curable. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of care, a lot of money to do so. So again, it's something that's very easily avoided by just doing the shots. Parainfluenza, dogs get colds just like we do, get your flu virus, just like we do. So those are things to protect against. The rabies, obviously. Leptospirosis is a bacterial infection, and that's something that's been rampant lately, at least down in this area. It comes from infected urine, water. So dogs that like to drink out of puddles or roll in puddles, or if your yard has a lot of standing water when it rains heavily, those are all really, really bad areas for that. It doesn't always make your dog sick. You may not always notice the signs right away, but it can be really dangerous if left unattended and all that bacteria is in their stomach. Why is my dog vomiting? Why is my dog lethargic? Why does he have diarrhea? All of that stuff. There's so many things. There's Ehrlichia, Giardia, all these things, coccidia, that they can pick up from that stale water, that standing water, the bacteria. It's a breeding ground for bacteria, and just kind of think of it that way. You wouldn't want your child playing in it. In the same sense, you really don't want your dog playing in it, because if it's inhaled through their nose, their mouth, then they could get infected. Coronavirus, that's another one that's covered by the vaccines. It is from fecal matter. It's rarely fatal, but it can have some of the same symptoms as parvovirus, so they're going to treat it the same way. Again, it's all still scary, because if you have a puppy that's really little, no matter what it is in that sense, they're not going to be able to fight it off. So if you don't jump on that right away, don't think it's not a big deal that your puppy sleeps too much. They play, they sleep. They play, they sleep. They shouldn't be just sleeping. They should want to play. They should have energy. It's a puppy. Bordetella is something that vets mostly and boarding facilities insist on. Kennels, if your dog does doggy daycare, they have to have their Bordetella every 6 months. Personally, I think it's a load of bull. There are so many strains of the Bordetella. Think of it again. It's like a human cold. There are so many strains of the cold. It's like saying that, I'm going to get one, which is basically a injective liquid up their nose, that's going to protect me against ever having a cold again. Well, again, does that really sound logical to you? No. Maybe it'll protect you against, I think it covers maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 or so strains of the virus. But again, there's so many out there. There's 100 out there. It's a little crazy. So just really make sure that you are completely covered. But Bordetella is not something that is necessary for your dog to have unless you are having to go to a boarding facility or kennel and they're insistent upon it. Lyme disease. Lyme disease is not really big down here. It's big for my friends and my family at home up in Boston. It's a really big deal in the Northeast. It's big in Northern California, in kind of northern Midwest area, or upper Midwest area. But basically, most people are aware of it. Lyme disease is from a bite from an infected tick. So definitely want to avoid it when you're walking through woodsy areas, walking through grass. They jump on you very easily. They can be really, really tiny before they really start biting and sucking the blood, and you really don't feel them. It's kind of just an annoyance of like, I'm going like this because, you're itchy after taking a shower, you didn't put cream, whatever. It's just a slight annoyance like that where you feel a sudden itch all of a sudden. And that's all it is. So it's really important that if you're coming from a woodsy area, you're out there, you're out in the grass, you're playing, you're laying on the grass for any reason, picnics, things like that, that you check yourself, check your kids, check your dogs over, cats over, and make sure they don't have them. What I'd like to talk about from here, because actually that's a good segment since it's ticks, is flea, tick, heartworm, worm prevention, all of that. So basically we've done some research in our rescue group and myself personally for the show. We've actually taken a look at a lot of research out there, a lot of reviews, again, not going by what one person says or what I've personally experienced, but what 20 people have personally experienced, 40 people, 100 people have experienced, along with veterinarians, vet techs, and all of that stuff. We've gone through and we've taken all of the popular medications that are out there and available to you on the market. I'm not looking at like store ones that you get at Walmart, like the Pet Armors and the Bios and things like that. A lot of those are really junk. They're high chemicals. You put them on the back and suddenly your dog's losing its fur. That's very, very common. Be careful of those. Can cause seizures and everything else. It is worth it to get a prescription one from your vet. Or again, if you want to totally avoid these and your dog isn't going to other areas where they might pick something up, you can use natural forms like the DE powder that we spoke about previously in previous shows, which is the diatomaceous earth. It's a powder you can put down on their bedding, on them, rub it into their skin. You can put it in the yard. You can put it in their water. You can take it yourself in case you have parasites yourself. But basically, it will kill what they have. It's not going to happen right away. It tends to kind of work over a couple of weeks, and then it's something that you keep up with. Okay, so stuff that's on the market. Let's start with the flea stuff. Capstar is a popular thing that we use in rescue because we have transports coming in from shelters. They've been outside. Shelters don't always have the money for flea prevention, so first thing we do when they come off a transport is Capstar them. It's a little pill. We give it to them. Kills everything in 30 minutes. Fleas are jumping off. Oh, get out of here. And then you go home, give them a bath. They're nice and clean, good to go. It does not protect for the month, though. I have to say that it is just an immediate killer of fleas. It does not protect you. You can give it to them as young as 4 weeks of age, so that's a really good one for babies. Pricing on that is about $35 for 6 tabs because I'm doing 6 months for most of these, so I'm giving you 6 tabs. But again, it's something that you're going to use if they have a flea infestation. You want to get rid of it right away. Advantage 2 is really popular. They had Advantage, now they have Advantage 2. You'll find with some of these flea medications, they've had to alter their formulas a little bit, make them a little bit stronger, whatever it may be. You've probably heard from friends that some of them, you say, oh, the fleas have built up a resistance to it. Whatever it is, it's just not working anymore. So Advantage 2 is out on the market. It can be given as young as 7 weeks of age. It's $60 for a 6-month supply. It starts working in 12 hours. And it covers fleas and worms, strangely enough. Most of them don't do fleas and worms, but that was an interesting combination there. People did give it a really good rating. I forgot to say Capstar has a 10 rating. It does take care of everything. Advantage 2 has an 8 rating, so rate 8 out of 10. So it is rated really well. Comfortis. Comfortis is one of my favorite products, which I know not everybody will do because some of their dogs have reactions to it. So obviously, anytime you give your dog a medication, a vaccine, anything of the sort, even if it's just flea, tick, heartworm meds, make sure you're there for at least a couple hours just to make sure there's no reactions to it. Comfortis came on the market a couple years ago. It was like, I can't even say. It was going from some of these topicals that you're like, this isn't working. I'm doubling up on it. It washes off. This is crazy. They're losing hair. To suddenly we have a pill that works, and it works perfect. It isn't, there's not a flea on them. So Comfortis works really well. It does have a 10 out of 10 rating. It is definitely a lot more expensive. It's $105, and these prices are all based on a dog anywhere between, say, 60 and 100 pounds. I do big dogs. Little dogs, obviously, would be a little bit cheaper. But $105 for a 6-month supply. It has the Capstar medication in it, so it does kill everything in 30 minutes, but it does also protect throughout the month. It is a flea medication. It does not do anything beyond the fleas, but it works really well if you have a flea problem. Moving on to some of the combos, we have Canine Advantix 2. Again, you see a 2 on the end of there. It can be given, Comfortis, I do want to warn you, Comfortis is one thing that you cannot give at a very young age. 14 weeks is what they're saying is the youngest age you can give that to a puppy because of the chemical that is in it. So just kind of take note of that. I'm going to put this information on our Facebook page so everybody has it and has a little graph to look back. But anyway, Canine Advantix 2, it's $66 for a 6-month supply. It's got an 8 out of a 10 rating, so that's good. It works in about 12 hours, but it does cover fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and lice. Now, the mosquitoes thing is a really good thing because your mosquitoes are where your heartworm comes from. So if it's repelling mosquitoes and killing mosquitoes, that's great. Lice, dog lice is actually quite common. People don't realize it. You don't know it. You can't figure out why your dog's biting. You can't see anything. And that does take care of that as well. Frontline Plus, not my favorite, that's for sure. Years ago, it was the thing to use. You can use it as young as 8 weeks. Its ratings for fleas is a 3 out of 10. Its ratings for ticks is a 7 out of 10. So apparently it seems to work well for ticks, but not so much for fleas anymore. It's about $75 for a 6-month supply, and it works in about 12 hours, and it does do fleas, ticks, and lice. NexGard, which is a fairly new product, is you can give as early as 8 weeks. Does not have a very good rating though. A lot of mixed reviews on this. It has about a 5 out of 10 on fleas and only a 4 out of 10 on ticks. So doesn't sound like it's a very good product. It's put out by Frontline. And it's $125 for a 6-month supply. It is the most expensive product out there right now. It takes 24 hours to work. It does flea and tick. I would just basically say I'd cross that off your list. Seresto. Seresto is a very new product. You can give it as early, I say give it, this is a little bit different. You can use it as early as 7 weeks. Why I'm saying use it instead of give it is Seresto is the new collar that you put on. Now, the old-fashioned thing was use a flea collar. It really didn't work. Seresto is a new product that came out, and it lasts 8 months, or that's what the product says. According to the reviews, that's not exactly what happens. It had a 4 out of 10 for fleas and a 1 out of 10 for ticks. Almost everybody reported still big sucking ticks on their dogs, not just new stuff that had been sitting there and the medication didn't take care of it. It takes 48 hours to kick in. It's $49 for an 8-month collar. Prices have gone down on that, maybe for good reason. And it does flea and ticks, although not well. So HeartGard. HeartGard is kind of your go-to for heartworm treatment. It can be given as early as 6 weeks of age, though don't really see the point in that. I usually start my heartworm about 12 weeks. It works. There's no doubt about it. 10 out of 10. It is about $53 for a 6-month supply, and it does protect against heartworm, and it also covers worms, roundworms, hookworms. Iverheart, which is basically a generic of HeartGard. Again, you can give that as early as 8 weeks. It has a 9 out of 10 rating. $45 a month. It's a little bit cheaper. That's it. Same thing, does heartworms and worms. Revolution is one of the combos. You can give it as early as 6 weeks. The ratings are okay. 6 out of 10 on fleas, 5 out of 10 on ticks, 8 out of 10 on heartworm. So it's okay. It's $95 a month for a 6-month supply. Works in about 12 hours. Does fleas, ticks, heartworms, worms. Advantage Multi, that's a fairly new one. You can give it at 7 weeks. It is a topical. That is a different one. It has really good ratings, 8 out of 10 for fleas. It doesn't do ticks, but it's a 10 out of 10 on heartworms. And it's also good for your herding breeds that you can't give the ivermectin HeartGard stuff to. It's $100 for a 6-month supply, but it is rated really well for a topical. It works in about 12 hours. Trifexis. Trifexis is, again, just like Confortis. That's kind of my go-to. As early as 8 weeks. Again, seems a little early for me. 10 out of 10 on fleas. It does not do ticks. 10 out of 10 on heartworm. $120 a month for 6 months. But it is the combo of Confortis as well as the HeartGard, basically, is what's in it. As well as the Capstar. So it kills everything in 30 minutes, protects you throughout the month, and protects you for heartworm. Sentinel is the other one. I wouldn't even bother. It's got really bad ratings. $63 a month. It's 48 hours before it takes effect, and it needs Capstar on top of it because it doesn't kill fleas. So that's our chart. I'm going to post it for you. I'm kind of rushing through the end. Unbelievably enough, our 30 minutes are over. I hope you found this information really helpful. A lot of information there for you for vaccines, for medications. The information is always up on our screen for adopting a dog through FAR. If you want to volunteer, if you have questions, that's how you can contact us. And of course, we have our Facebook page. Please don't hesitate. Have a great week, and God bless you next week.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.